Oh, I can't tell you how excited I am to do this video. I've had lots of comments, I've had lots of messages talking about epoxy countertops. This specific one is gonna go on top of a vanity, and the super cool thing about this is particle board. So this video specifically is going to be about pouring the epoxy. I am gonna make a second video, which is gonna walk you through how to make this piece of board. Let's go over here real quick and I'll kind of walk you through what we need. We have right here our epoxy. You've got part A and part B. This is the main stuff that you use that we pour. And then we've got this white primer. And all of this stuff will be down in the link in the description below on everything that you need. So we'll need some foam rollers, and then we'll need this mini roller, and we'll need a bucket. These are super important. You can get these at Lowe's or Home Depot. But why you want these ones is they've got measurements on the side, and you've got to be very precise when you pour this stuff in to mix it right. Couple of other things is you'll need some of these bigger sticks. You can get these from Lowe's as well. We're gonna use these to stir. We take these little sticks right here, and this is how we're gonna pour all of the veins and everything. I've got some spray bottles. This has black powder in it. This has gold powder, and this is the pearl white. This is how we get the super cool effects. And please, please, please use gloves. And the coolest part about all of this is the propane torch. So we've got about 10 square feet over here. So according to the manufacturer's directions, we're gonna need 1 gallon of part B and part A. It's always very, very important that you put part B in first and then you put in part A. So I'm gonna go ahead and put 2 quarts. And now we have part A, and we're gonna do the same amount, 2 quarts in here. So we've got this mixed in here. This step is super important. This is where our big stick comes in play here. We've got to mix this for about 5 minutes. So the big reason we need to mix it for the 5 minutes is if you don't, it sits together and it separates. So when you actually pour it and it hardens, there'll be some really soft spots on there and some hard spots, and you don't want that because the soft spots definitely break off. All right, so we're done mixing it. And according to the manufacturer, you always have to use a new stick. This is gonna be your primer that we're gonna mix in. This is what gives this glossy white. So I'm gonna pour this in here, and it's gonna be super cool. And one of the big tips on this one is you definitely have to stir it. They say about 3 minutes to stir it. I always go 5 minutes just in case, because I want it to have a real good mix in there, just to make sure that you have a super consistent epoxy. You always want to make sure to get the bottoms and get the sides too, just in case anything's sticking on it. All right, I got my gloves on, I got my roll over here. So now it's time to pour it. And when you're pouring this, try to pour it in the middle, because you'll take that foam roller and you'll move it all over. And that's how you get that even coverage. And the super cool thing about this is it's self-leveling. All right, so all you do is you just put a light pressure on it, nothing crazy, and we're just gonna roll it around. And like I said, it's self-level, so don't get too anxious if there's a little spot higher at this current moment. When you're priming the edges, you're just putting a little bit of epoxy on it, so when the stuff flows over the side, it connects to it. All right, so here's a good tip. Right over here, you can see on this corner, somehow the epoxy didn't get over there, so you always wanna have good coverage over there. So we kept a little bit of the epoxy in there, so we're just gonna tab just a little bit right over the top, just so we have that nice, even coverage. I've got another piece of particle board right here. I'm gonna pour a little bit of epoxy on this, and what we're gonna be using this for is this how we're gonna put some color in it and how we're gonna be able to put veins inside of it. And the reason why you wanna do this is we're gonna let this sit for about 20 minutes And we want this epoxy over here to cure at the same time, just so it gives it just a consistency when you put the veins in there. So this is our pearl white. I just like to put a lot of this pearl white in it. Gives it this super nice, cool effect. And now we got the black. Do not go crazy with this. You just want light little speckles here. Again, we're gonna test it over here just to make sure we got the right consistency. Kind of wanted to spray, so just lightly. And then we have the gold right here. I'm not a huge gold fan at all by any means, but if you look at natural marble, there's always this little bit of rust in it. So I definitely like just a spray, just gives it that little natural rust in it. And this is my personal preference. Kind of look when I do this, it's gonna look all kind of smeared and everything at first, but at the end, I promise you, it's gonna look so cool. So all I do, just come in here, just lightly smear it, and it will always self-level back. And remember, this is a super light pressure, and as you can already see, it's starting to make this really cool effect on it. So I'm gonna go back with this pearl and spray it. You can never use too much of the pearl. It just gives it this natural, like, really cool kind of pop effect. I'm gonna come back with the black, and I'm gonna start making a little bit of a vein here. And I love to have a couple veins in here. And this is just the outline. When we come back with the actual sticks, you'll have more of the actual like real veins, but this just gives this super cool pattern. As you can see, it just like literally changes before your eyes. And the next step, we got our propane torch here. This has got to be my favorite thing of the whole project. So what we're doing is there's little air bubbles in here. So we're just coming and lightly torching it. You don't want to put it too close to it, because if you do, it kind of burns the epoxy. All right, so we're done getting all the air bubbles out of it. So I'm gonna take this little bit of the black and a little bit of this gold. And if you remember, we have this right over here. So I'm just gonna spray a little bit of black in this, and a little bit of the gold. Because it sits on the top, we kind of want to stir it in there a little bit so we don't have just a plain white epoxy here. Very, very important that you put a timer on, because the epoxy does dry. So definitely set a timer. In 20 minutes, we're done. So this is where we come into our next step. This was the board that I told you we poured a little bit of epoxy on. And this is the super cool part. This is where you get your veins. Just want to get a little bit on there. And it's super important when you do this to come over to the side and to let it drag over to the other side, because you want the same consistent effect. So what I did as a backup plan, if this didn't work out, I poured some epoxy in the cup. So this isn't really working out the way that I thought it was going to. So, poured a little bit of the epoxy in another cup. So I'm a huge fan of really big veins. So I'm just gonna come in here, pour it, another one right there. All right. I love just putting these super small veins in here. And right here, this is what I was talking about. You want to make sure that you go over the edge of it so it's just one continuous vein. It gives that more of that natural look that you're looking for. So I like pouring veins inside of other veins. It gives it this super cool effect in the end. And you can pour white on white. It's still gonna show up these veins because it separates the color. This is my favorite, just coming in here and mixing it all together. Gives these super cool effects. Sometimes when you kind of got wavy lines, it's okay to just come back and kind of blend them in. Because a natural stone, you usually just have straight lines. And once again, this is more of a personal preference for me. I just like to come back in and blend everything in. And one thing I like to do just to make sure that your edges turn out real good, I like to come back over and just re-smooth these out just to make sure we have a really nice even coat on it. As you can kind of see on here, there's not a whole lot of gold in here. Kind of mixed it in, so I'm just gonna lightly get some little gold accents in there. Throw some black on top of it. And it's super cool. You can actually even see it moving and it just like forming up, making these cool little patterns. And one of the final steps that we need to do is you can see you've got all of these little drips right here. All you're gonna do is take your paint and just come over here and just take them right off. And we're gonna wrap everything up. I'm gonna take the torch one more time over it, just to make sure that we don't have any air bubbles. And check it out, guys. This is the finished product. It is absolutely stunning. Just to kind of give you guys a little bit of breakdown, if you guys were to buy an actual marble top for this vanity, specifically a 2 by 5 foot, you're looking anywhere from $600 to $800 to have a real marble countertop. This is probably gonna cost you about anywhere from $200 to $300. But as you can see, we had a ton of stuff left over. And what you don't see is I actually have 2 more bottles. So you have plenty enough to do kitchen countertops, other vanities. And just another really cool tip with this is you can put this over anything. You can put it over your Formica countertops. You can put it over real stone countertops if you don't like your current countertops. It is just a really awesome thing. The fact that people come in and you say, check out this countertop, see what I made, it really kind of sets it over the top that you did this and you made this. And it's just really super cool. The last thing that I'll tell you about this takes anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to cure. You want to let it sit for at least a day or 2 days before you put anything on it, just so you can completely have it all done, cured, so you don't leave dents in or anything. Periodically check on it over the next couple hours. If you see an air bubble, feel free to grab the torch, just lightly run over it. But other than that, we're pretty much done. And I will show you tomorrow what the finished product looks like. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Wanted to show you guys what it looked like in person. And this is it. Look at the final product. Look how good it looks.